Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of For What It's Nerd. A little disclaimer before we continue tonight. I am feeling slightly under the weather, so if the audio quality or otherwise the cadence of this episode is slightly different to usual, I do apologize. I'm trying to work through it, but suddenly I have this very weird shortness of breath, and it's kind of stymieing my audio a little bit, but I'm trying to kind of go through it, try and get this episode out to you guys because I do want to talk about this movie, which is Argylle. Now, Argylle is a spy action comedy movie, and it is very interesting in a lot of ways. I actually found it to be a really interesting movie. The idea, the premise of the movie to be something different, something a little bit unique. Sadly, the movie later on kind of undermines that. So, for those who aren't aware, the movie is about kind of two warring spy organizations, so to speak. Not maybe that's a loose term, organization, but still. And the idea is that there is this writer that is predicting events that are happening in the spy world, and so they're after her for that. A little bit of a spoiler. Later in the movie, it's found out not to be the case, and it's just that she has repressed memories from her being a spy. I feel like this movie is a great popcorn movie. I think this is a movie that is really, really, it's not going to win awards. You know, it's not super, super out there. It's not super, super, like, the acting isn't, like, phenomenal. Like, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of good actors in this, and I think all of their performances separately are really, really enjoyable and fun. But I think, like, overall, it's not like there's not like deeply gut-wrenching scenes or anything like that. It is very lighthearted. It is very whimsical. Some people have argued that's not the case. I think it is. I think it's got a lot of whimsy, and it's got a lot of, like, surrealism in it as well. And I like that. I like the surrealism because you can tell, especially in the kind of segments of the movie that are meant to be fiction and very much are fiction, like the fictionalized version of events, they're really played up, they're really hammed up, and I love that. I love that the way they did that, because you could tell straight away that you were in a fictional universe within this fictional universe, if that makes sense. And yeah, I think visually it was really, really enjoyable to watch. It was very vibrant. It was a very fun piece that way, and like some of the camera work was actually quite humorous in a way. There's certain camera angles that were quite funny, and certain fight scenes as well. The fight scenes in this, I would say, are very reminiscent to me, and I haven't watched Golden Circle, so I can't speak to that movie, but very reminiscent to me of Kingsman, which of course is directed by the same person as this movie. But yeah, so my main selling point for this going in was like kind of like this idea of like the spies, you know, hard evidence facts, kind of taking a lead from a clairvoyant kind of, or like a soothsayer type situation, which of course didn't end up being the case. So that kind of tainted the movie slightly for me, or damped the movie slightly for me. But I think there was some fun twists in there and some fun moments in the movie, and there was a lot of humor that some of it didn't hit, but some of it really did and was really, really enjoyable. It was really nice to see Bryce Dallas Howard as well get like a more kind of central focal point in this project, because, you know, yes, she was in the Jurassic World franchise, and yes, she's done other things as well, but it feels like in this she got a real kind of frontal role, and some of the scenes were really just there for her to kind of enjoy. You know, you could tell that it was like meant to be this kind of fun outing for her, like different to what she's been in previously, you know. But yeah, really enjoyed the movie in that regard. I do think the story wasn't great. I think the not only what I've said prior, but I do think I would say this is a parody movie. I would say this is more in line with like a Johnny English type spy movie, and I know that it's got the comedy element, so that's very much true. But I think it's meant like there's like every parody of everything that's ever happened in a spy movie in this movie. Even when it's maybe not meaning to parody, so to speak, it does that. And I don't necessarily hate that, because I think sometimes parody can be good at highlighting a genre's kind of overused tropes and stuff like that, especially when the kind of idea is that this is meant to be books, right? Because the thing is, what you start getting is, because Ellie slash, you know, the spy character, because there's an intertwining there, you get this kind of idea of, is this a reliable narrator, and thus is some of the fiction's fiction, yes, but is some of the reality fiction as well, if that makes sense? Is there some embellishment there? Is this how things actually happened? And, you know, or you start thinking of stuff like that as well, especially because there's some things that are mirrored that happen earlier on that are then mirrored later in reality that wouldn't have been predicted in that way, considering what had been suggested as to how the prediction worked prior, if that makes sense. But yeah, long story short, and I think this is a very straightforward review. This is not going to win any awards. This is not a super stellar movie. I think there were some points that were actually really cringe, but even those were kind of commented on in a way. There's a very much a scene where there's a Henry Cavill bit, Henry Cavill being Argylle in this, and there's a point in the movie where he there's I'll show you fireworks, and literally Ellie, Bryce Dallas Howard's character goes, oh no, that was super cringe, and deletes it. And so it was this is they're playing with this kind of idea of these things that are kind of tropey that aren't super cool and that are overdone and all that type of stuff. But yeah, so I think in that way, very fun. It was actually really nice to see, because I haven't watched too many movies with Sam Rockwell in, but I've generally seen him in movies where he is a side character. So it was really nice to see him in a leading role. It also made me, as regards Bryan Cranston and Catherine O'Hara, it really made me want to continue with Breaking Bad, because I only got to season 2 and then stopped. And I think he's a great actor, and I want to see more of what is seen as his best performance. And then Catherine O'Hara, same for her. I started watching Schitt's Creek, and by started watching, I mean I watched episode 1, the pilot, and then I haven't since, but I know she's great in that as Moira Rose. So I really want to watch that as well. So those kind of, so if nothing else, even if this movie hasn't been great for me as regards itself, at least it's propelling me into wanting to watch some more work of these actors. But yeah, really star-studded cast. I think they all did good with what they had. And I'm not against it, but I don't think there shouldn't be there should be a sequel. I don't think there needs to be any follow-up. I don't think it's going to become an instant classic. Kingsman to a degree is, right? There's people discussing little parts of I've seen, separate to all this discourse, I've seen parts of Kingsman pop up in discourse in other areas. I remember that people saying about the fight scene. In fact, I think there was just a comment recently about this, that the fight scene in the church in Kingsman was almost going to be removed up until 3 days before the movie premiered. And so there's a lot of different kind of intriguing elements and facts coming out around Kingsman and stuff like that I don't think we'll necessarily see with Argylle. I think it will fade into the background, but that's okay. Some movies can be like that. Some movies can just be okay. And frankly, that's one thing I've found to be the case more and more the past few years, is that we're getting okay and mediocre and sort of off the beaten track kind of movies again. It felt like if everything wasn't perfect, top tier, it wasn't being made. But it feels like we're kind of getting into the kind of scenario where you have sort of, not, this sounds bad, but art and then movies for consumption, right? And that's okay. That's okay to have those two. So I think this is actually a really good thing for cinema, that there's lesser movies, because then you get to appreciate the bigger movies, the better movies more. But yeah, I think I'm pretty much going to leave it there for this one, mainly because I don't think I can really articulate myself too well right now, and it feels like it's kind of I don't want to re-go over the same points and make this kind of a redundant review. So in summation, I think Argylle is basically a 6 out of 10. It's fun, you'll probably enjoy it, you don't want a sequel, you don't want to watch it again, you know, that kind of thing. So with that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed listening / watching. If you have, please do let me know, and we'll be back again next week. Wait, is it next week? Oh gosh, I don't know. 1 second. No, we will be back next week, of course, but we'll be back in 2 weeks movie-wise, at least, for Madam Web, which I'm very excited about, because I feel like that's going to be another movie that we're going to talk about being probably trash, maybe, probably, and we'll see how that kind of pairs up. I think that's going to be even more of a situation than Argylle perhaps was. So we will see about that very soon. In the meantime, guys, I hope you have a great rest of your week, or great start to your next week, considering it's Sunday. And I will see you guys again very soon. Bye, guys.